Hi, Alyssa, Prettyman for AlyssaYoga.com here. So since we've started sheltering in place, I have had several people reach out to me with painful shoulder and what I call nolder or neck shoulder related issues. And whenever people first reach out, my response is always the same. Do you have a diagnosis from a qualified physician or physical therapist? Because if there's one thing that yoga teachers should not be doing, it's diagnosing people, because we are never trained to diagnose people, because that's not part of a yoga teacher training. So with that out of the way, it's like, I'm not an auto mechanic. I couldn't even change my own oil. Some people can. But there are some things that you definitely need to bring your car into a shop for, and some things that you can start to explore on your own. You should know how to put gas in the tank, probably windshield washer fluid, maybe put air in the tires, right? So there are some basics that we can understand about our shoulders so that hopefully, if they're cranky, we can start to develop some tools that help them feel better. First is an understanding that the shoulders in general are complicated. If we think of how many joints are related to the shoulder, some people will say there's three. I believe that there are four based on the people that I study with. But the shoulders, if we are to think about the four joints of the shoulder, there's your shoulder blade, right? There's the scapula, and where the scapula attaches to the rib cage. So there's that scapulothoracic system there. The scapula has this little bit that comes around almost like a little epaulette, a little curve that comes around the shoulder, and it meets the clavicle, the collarbone. So that is the acromioclavicular joint, where the acromion process of the scapula meets the clavicle. There is where the other end of the clavicle meets the sternum, the sternoclavicular joint. And then there's where this arm bone, the humerus, meets the glenoid fossa of the scapula as well. And that's the glenohumeral joint. So 4 different places where things come together, all of those different places uniquely moved by various systems of muscles. Muscles generally work in systems to create motion in the body. The more complex the motion, the more muscles that are involved. So the shoulder is complicated. But if we think about the things that we're doing that make the shoulder cranky, then we might have some insight into where we can roll a little bit to get relief, where we need to stretch a little bit to provide some space, and where we may need to strengthen so we can balance out something that is imbalanced, right? Like I can stretch my chest open as much as I like, but until the upper back is strong, am I going to be able to maintain what is considered neutral, or where the body is designed to be on a regular basis? So that's my quick little lecture on the shoulders. Let's understand also that when we think about shoulder movement, we can break it down into like 8 different things, 8 to 10 different things. So let's think about the way the arms move and the directions of movement for the arms. We have what we would call shoulder flexion. I know we say extend the arms up, but this movement is happening at the joint, right? We understand that movement happens at joints and only really at joints, right? I'm not going to start to bend in the middle of my arm bone here. That would be incredibly painful. So we have shoulder flexion, shoulder extension when it goes behind us. We have internal rotation or medial rotation, depending on who you talk to. We have lateral rotation or external rotation. Now my hands are going with me as well, but what I'm focusing on is the direction of movement for the shoulder, because we're talking about shoulders today, right? So internal rotation, external rotation. medial rotation, lateral rotation. Internal, medial towards the middle, external, lateral towards the edges. Those are kind of the same thing, okay? Internal, external, flexion, extension, and then we have abduction, AB, like I'm abducting the arm away from me, and I have adduction, AD, pulling my arm down by my side. Now, if it hurts when I go into flexion, and it hurts in the muscles that are doing the movement, then I can look at, okay, what are the muscles of shoulder flexion? And maybe I could massage on those, assuming that they're not torn. Or if I feel that there's a pulling when I go into flexion on the stuff on the other side, maybe that stuff's a little bit too tight, restricting my range of motion, and I can massage maybe some of the extensor muscles so that I have an easier time in flexion. And this is just sort of basic massage strategy. Look at the motion you're trying to go in. What direction am I trying to move in? And then feel, is it pain in the action? Is it pain in the opposing action, right? In the muscles that would go the other way. And so if we can zero in on where the shoulders are cranky, then we can usually apply a little bit of massage there to get blood flow, to get cranky trigger points or knotted up bits to start to relax a little bit so that the system is in a greater state of ease. Okay, so that's my spiel on the shoulders, and we're 6 minutes in. And if you haven't already tuned out, then good for you, because there will be some great massage here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with the collarbone. I'm going to start with this sternoclavicular and a acromioclavicular joint, and I'm just going to take a ball and I'm going to rub it right underneath the collarbone. And now if your pain is way back here, don't discount this method, because if you're tight here and it's pulling and straining back here, finding some relief across the chest so that the shoulders can sit a little bit more in their natural position is a great technique to use. Take this ball, place it on one of your collarbones, lean against the wall, and just go side to side. Now we're not going all over the chest. We're staying right underneath the collarbone. So you can see where I'm going right here. Now this ball is bigger than a tennis ball. This is called the alpha ball. You can get this at tuneupfitness.com. What I like about using this ball versus a tennis ball is when I use a tennis ball, I'm like humping the wall. When I use the alpha ball, I have more clearance. So it's easier to do, not just this, but some other moves against the wall. So just a little bit bigger can be helpful. And as you go side to side, just under the collarbone, pause in an area that feels kind of cranky and move that arm around. Maybe, sometimes they'll say, do like the chicken wing, or try to rotate the arm bone a little bit, see if that gives you anything. And if you don't feel much sensation when you do that, just move a little bit left or right and then do the same thing. And you can press in with as much pressure as feels good. But if you're going deeper with the pressure, I encourage you to move a heck of a lot slower so that your brain doesn't think what you're doing is threatening, so that you give the body, the breath, the brain time to acclimate to the increase in pressure. I'll usually say, breathe in a way that tells your brain you're okay. Okay. So that's under collarbone 1. Now go over to the place under collarbone 2. Other things that we want to start to assess when we start rolling is the differences between right and left. Because if my right side is crankier than my left, then maybe my right side needs a little bit more time and attention. Maybe it needs, after I massage, maybe a little bit more stretching. If one side is weaker than the other, maybe it needs a little bit more strengthening. So just start to notice, and maybe even write down, what do I feel? Sometimes when I do this, I get a little bit of referral sensation on the front side of my shoulder blade. It's a muscle called subscapularis. I had an injury putting together IKEA furniture, but a year and a half ago. And I felt a pop in my chest and pain here and on the underside of my shoulder blades. I've been working on that one for a while. So it's funny that I can still feel like the anger in this relationship, in this system, because there was trauma there. So notice what you're finding. And again, if you find that cranky spot, you can move. So what I'm doing with the arm now is, again, that maybe I chicken wing, maybe I turn it a little bit. Because when I move my shoulder joint, because the scapula comes around and attaches to the collarbone, I influence the collarbone. The collarbone moves when your shoulder joint moves. So understanding the connection between these things is helpful if you are a cranky shoulder person. Collarbone is a part of the system. Okay. All right. So we've done this. We've done the collarbone. We're going to come up over the collarbone now and press into what is essentially your trapezius muscle. Trapezius muscle is huge. Google image search a picture of it. It starts at the base of your skull, runs down the back of your neck, acts like a little cape across the top of your shoulder blades, and then comes back down and like runs along your spinal column, comes down into a V shape. So it's enormous. And it has a relationship with your head, your neck, your shoulders, and your spine. So trapezius is a worthy muscle to pay attention to. Now, because I have this ball, I can place it just above the collarbone and start to press. Feel that you can like push that meat back a little bit, and that feels good. So if you have that placement, you can lean onto the wall. I'm going to put my head on the wall, and I can just pull and pull. And what I'm focusing on is leaning in, putting pressure while it's on the front of my body, and then slowly dragging towards the back. And then I'm going to get light on the return, and I'm going to slowly drag towards the back. And if you have this bigger ball and you're doing this now, keep doing it. Get like 10 of those slow, deep pulls. If you don't have this ball, you can't really do that. You can't go over the top because your head doesn't bend. For most of us, our neck doesn't bend that far. So a really nice, similar, not the same, but similar approach is to put something on the wall or to stand in a door frame, right? If this were the door frame, put the ball kind of close to the edge of the door frame, lean your head out the door frame, and then push that ball so it's driving that trapezius muscle back. And you can just hang out there. You can also turn or change the direction that you're pointing the head and neck. Draw some different shapes with the tip of your nose. And you should be getting in there. For most people, super cranky spot right here. Okay. Switching to the other side now. Remember, we're going above the collarbone to this Nolder region, or where a backpack strap would go, or a bra strap, gentlemen. And you want to feel that the ball is at least pressing back, or slowly cruising over the top, encouraging the trapezius back into place, especially if we spend a lot of time like this. Okay, so I'll show you both from the back. If you know what you're doing, go ahead and do it. Want to be there for about 30 to 45 seconds, depending on the technique that you have. So if I'm just holding in place, I've got my pressure point in. It can be a book on the wall or a door frame. You can move your head and neck around. The pressure should be breathable. If you can't breathe, your brain doesn't think you're okay, the muscles are going to clench. You're not going to get the benefit. So slow and steady. If you're going to go deep, move really, really slow, and make sure your breath is a part of the experience that you're delivering. Again, here, I'm going to use the big ball. I can slowly, light as I go to the front, slow and deep as I go to the back. Light as I go to the front, slow and deep as I go to the back. And then sometimes, again, I'll put my head on the wall so I can pivot around it. Sometimes I call this one the bowler in class because usually I'll teach it in the beginning to pretend like you're bowling that bottom hand through. It just helps you get a little bit of rotation in the torso as you do it. And take another pass or two or another breath or two, depending on the technique that you're applying. Good. Okay. So that's about all we're going to do on the front of the body today, because I know what my friends, actually, it's funny because two people that reach out to me for neck and shoulder stuff are both named Ryan. And so this is for you, Ryans, and then a couple other people as well. But let's take a tennis ball or a small ball and lean it on the outside of the shoulder. So these are your delt muscles. And you think of the delts, you think of those like general tassels, you know, that hang over the edge of the shoulder. They're kind of like that. The delts have fibers on the front and fibers on the back, and they do different things, which is always really interesting about muscles, right? We call these our deltoid muscles because they kind of look like a shoulder cap, but the front fibers participate more in that. The back fibers participate more in that, and they support other movements as well. So we're just kind of leaning onto the lateral surface of the delt, the side to the side surface. And I'm just kind of shimmying my shoulder in little circles here. I don't love to go super deep, kind of right onto the front of the shoulder in here, because there's a little bony, sticky outy bit called your coracoid process, where some important stuff attaches, but it just kind of sticks right out. It's like a little thumb sticking out on the front of your shoulder. So I don't go super heavy right onto the front. That's one of the reasons. But the side I tend to like. If you've been circling in one direction, circle in the other. And if you're trying to lure in a sassy stranger later, your shoulder will be ready for it. You just sit 6 feet away and do this, and they'll definitely come to you. Okay. Now start to pull the ball a little bit onto the back of your arm, sort of towards like the armpit crack, the back of the armpit crack. You all know what I mean, right? Yeah, that guy. So I'm coming over here and I'm starting to go right in here, maybe a little bit over in this zone. And it starts to get really sweet over here, but be patient. Whenever I teach this one in class, people start freestyling all over their back, and I get it. But if you're here for like strategic shoulder stuff, just stay with me, because we'll get into some of the rotator cuff stuff after this. If you're right on that armpit crack, you may already be getting into some of the infraspinatus, teres minor, shoulder stuff. Okay, you should feel pretty good still, not aggressive. If you lean sideways and you want to kind of push the back of your hand into the wall and kind of feel that muscle contract into the ball and relax a little bit, you can certainly do that. As you pull onto the back, maybe you rotate the arm bone and serve some appetizers, and you might feel some muscle engagement into the ball as you externally rotate the arms. Okay. Now pause. I know we want to go all over the back of the shoulders. It's coming. We're just dragging the system. We're dragging the muscular system a little bit more open at first. We're pulling things towards the back, and then we're going to move down. So let's take the other ball. I'm going to turn around now so you can see it from behind. And you're going to lean. Okay. And all I'm going to do at first is nice little circles. Trying to use this small ball as much as possible so that if you don't have tune-up balls, you can use a tennis ball. I strongly recommend ordering some yoga tune-up balls. Right now on my website, if you order the full body rollout on demand, it's only $25. It's 2 hours of guided self-massage, which includes the shoulders. But it also includes a 15% off discount code for full ball massage sets. And I use these frequently so you can have plenty of guided techniques and opportunities to use all the different massage tools. Go in the other direction if you haven't started already. And that full body on-demand massage, I have it on Vimeo. You can get there through my website, alyssayoga.com/events. All right, I'll shut up with the self-promotion now. This is a free video. So start to take the ball now onto this zone right here. So you can see how it got a little bit red, but the back of the delts and maybe a little bit onto that highway between the arm bone and the edge of the shoulder blade. Because that's the path that a lot of our rotator cuff muscles pass in order to attach to the arm, two of the four. So if your issue is rotator cuff related and you're not in active injury mode, something's not actively torn, right? We don't want to rub all over anything that is actively injured and trying to heal. But if it's just kind of tweaky, older injuries, tightness, restriction, scar tissue, that's the sort of stuff where we can get in there and start to create some freedom. Couple more breaths here. Okay. So good. Now what we're going to do, standing at the wall, is we're going to try to find 3 different zones before we go down either side of the spinal column. So zone 1 is we're trying to find a muscle called our levator scapula, or what I would consider is sort of the upper corner of the shoulder blade there. If you can feel around back there, you'll find that there's kind of like a corner ridge of the shoulder blade when you start to move your arm. And that upper edge of the shoulder blade comes up and it attaches to your neck. So levator scapula helps lift the shoulder blade, but it also attaches to the neck. So if your neck and shoulder zone is cranky, levator scap is a great one to look at. So we'll take the ball, we'll place it on the back of our body, and we'll lean against the wall. And what I find is helpful is just start to find that zone between the spinal column and the shoulder blade. So I'm on my right side. We're going to do one side at a time. And I'm like, okay, there's my spine. There's the edge of my shoulder blade. Spine, shoulder blade. Now go up a little bit and see if you can find the top corner of your shoulder blade. And then can you draw like a little C curve around the top of your shoulder blade there? Sometimes we'll do this on the ground and we'll involve a little bit of kind of, it's almost like I'm going to high five someone. Hey, how have you been? But then I remembered we're in quarantine. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, how you been? Trying to draw that little C curve around the top of the shoulder blade there. And I notice, because I have neck issues too, a little bit of cervical disc degeneration going on, that I have referral sensation in my neck as well, a bit. Okay. And if you go up a little bit higher towards the back of your neck, it's not the end of the world. Just in this, what we're doing here, try to stay more in the muscles than going like right into your cervical vertebrae, right into your neck bones, okay? So that feels pretty good, right? Trapezius muscles also hanging out back here. You are several layers thick, so sometimes we're working on multiple things at once. So that's trying to get at the levator scap, attaches the inner edge of the shoulder blade to the neck. Now what we're going to try to do is get a rotator cuff muscle called the supraspinatus. So we're going to start to work on the shoulder blade itself. So if you reach your fingers over it, you're going to feel that there's a bony ridge that runs left to right. That is the spine of your scapula. It's a little bit diagonal for most of us. So I can feel, okay, here's the bony ridge, here's the spine of my scapula. Just above it is where the supraspinatus runs. And you can usually feel if you're on it, if you put your arm by your side and start to lift the arm, that muscle will flex into your fingers because that's what it does. It helps abduct or take the arm out to the side. And this is one of the most injury prone rotator cuff muscles. It's small, it's not insanely sexy, but it is super important. So, where you had your fingers, now place the ball. Lean onto the ball and start to drag it left to right. If you're not sure if you're on it, bring your arm out to the side. Try that little lifting motion again. See if you can feel some flexing of that muscle into the ball so you know you're on the right place. That's a technique called contract and relax. Can help us not only find the spots, but help the ball sink in if it's in a particularly cranky area. Okay. In my yoga tune-up teacher training with this magical woman, Casey Easton, she described the shoulder blade like a slice of pizza, and I've stolen it from her. I use it all the time, so thank you, Casey. But right now you're on the crust of the pizza. You're on the top part of the pizza. So just kind of feel how the crust feels. It's not a huge zone. We're staying with, notice that we're staying with it. We're just going kind of left to right on the crust of the pizza. Now, go onto the lower part of the shoulder blade, under the spine of the scapula, what we would consider the place to put the toppings of the pizza. And if you're like, I don't know, it's just bony as hell back there, that's great. Find the spine again. There's a little gutter of muscles between the spine and the shoulder blade. Okay, lean over to the shoulder blade. So you find that middle border, that medial border of the shoulder blade. Go up and down there until you find the bottom little corner of it, and then come up the other side. So now you've kind of traced the edges of the triangle, and now go all over the top of it. That was a little more aggressive than I meant. But just kind of slowly scrub on the back of your shoulder blade. And for a lot of us, there's some pretty spicy toppings back here on this here piece of pizza. Okay. But if your issues are rotator cuff related, you have old rotator cuff injuries or scar tissue, we're tackling 3 of the 4 rotator cuff muscles right now. We have supraspinatus, and then the 2 down here on the shoulder blade would be infraspinatus and teres minor. Yep, there's other stuff happening around here too. We're a little bit rotator cuff focused right now, so I'm going to stay on that topic. Good. And then after you've rubbed on those things, you can come around again and cruise on the top of the arm bone. Now we were a little bit higher on the delt before. Now I want you to feel that you're on the arm bone, you're on the humerus itself, and you're drawing a little cuff around the upper edges of the arm bone. That is, you know, remember in the 90s when it was cool to have tribal tattoos? Yeah, rub on where that tribal tattoo would be. And if you still have one, congratulations. I thought it was such a hot look in high school for bros to have those tribal tattoos. Oh, how we changed. And so we're rolling out that rotator cuff, attachment points on the arm. And again, if anything feels really sticky and you're like, yep, that needs just a little bit of deep breath, lean into it. Okay, there we go. So that was levator scap and 3 of your 4 rotator cuff muscles in and around the shoulder blade and where they attach in the arm bone. So we're going to go ahead and do that on the other side. I'm telling you this while we do it because everybody came with slightly different issues, and I want you to know what you're doing and why you're doing it so that if you find a sweet spot that works for you so that you can go back to it. So sorry if there's a little bit more chatting here, but I want you to feel empowered. So, okay, levator scap, kind of the tricky one to find. Feel around on the other shoulder. Move. See if you can find the top inner edge of your shoulder blade. It's a little bit pointy. Yeah, there it is. Got it. Pick a ball, put it there. If you're like, I don't freaking know, again, I think it's pretty easy for most of us to find the spinal column in the middle. Go out to the side a little bit. Oh, there's my shoulder blade, that bony trail, that bony, bumpy, sticky outy bit. And then as I slide myself down, the ball goes up and I can find kind of that top corner of the shoulder blade. If you have hair, put it up because it feels terrible when it gets stuck on the ball. Okay. Top corner, top inside corner of the shoulder blade, a muscle called levator scapula lifts the scapula, also attaches to the neck. So if neck is your thing, then here's where we're looking. Okay. He's really nice. Kind of want to stay here forever, but I can hear my kids upstairs who want my attention. Okay. So from levator scapula land, we're going to head over and we're going to find the supraspinatus. Supra above, spinatus, spine of the scapula. So I'm going to reach over and I'm going to feel for that ridge, that kind of diagonal bump that runs from the top of my scapula. And I'm going to say, okay, right up here above it is supraspinatus, or if you like the pizza analogy, it's the crust of the pizza. And I'm just today simply side to side as an exploration. Right? If you want to lift that arm and lower it, you can sure do that. Again, sometimes it can help to just check. When I lift my arm, do I feel a muscle flex into the ball? Okay, now I know I'm on the right spot and I can maybe go side to side. And this is part of the Shouldertopia rollout. So if you want to do full rotator cuff exploration, this YouTube channel has a video called Shouldertopia that is expressly for the rotator cuff. We're getting into a little bit more detail. Okay, so we've gone side to side on the crust of the pizza. Now what we're going to try to do is go down onto the topping. So move the ball down. And this bottom part of the shoulder blade, for me, it feels like a flat, bony plate. And so I'm going to go all over there. And if I don't know where it is, again, find the spine. We know where that is. Move out to the side a little bit. Oh, there's a big bump in the road. That's the shoulder blade. Find the inner edge, the edge that runs closest to the spine. That's a little bit more straight up and down. Find the bottom corner as it turns and goes diagonally off towards the arm. And then rub all over the middle. Okay. If you find something spicy, maybe stay on it, maybe externally rotate a little bit, maybe side bend a little bit, maybe just stay and breathe and push. Breathing in a way that tells your brain you're okay. And now what I'm going to start to do is pull from the shoulder blade and come out around the arm bone. And again, I think it's important to differentiate. When we were on the delts, we were a little bit higher. We were more on the cap. And here now we're a little bit lower. We're on the cold tattoo spot. So I'm just kind of pulling around. I'm going back onto the shoulder blade. And I'm just taking a little tour here. If you get a little bit more towards the front of the arm bone, the underside of the arm bone, you get at an attachment point for your lats, which are big muscles on your back. That can also influence how happy your shoulders are. Okay. Great. So great. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll down that column that runs between the spinal column and the shoulder blade. And that's a big zone for the trapezius as well. And you can do this with 2 balls or 1. I like to do this one on the floor because there's more body weight that comes down into it. But today we're just going to stay on the wall. I'll make another video maybe tomorrow or Friday that does a little bit more shoulder rolling on the floor. So go over the shoulder. Wedge the ball onto your back, find the spinal column, find the shoulder, find that space between. It should feel meaty and muscly. You shouldn't feel like you're on bones here. Walk your feet away as much as you like. Start to bend and extend your knees. And the further away that you walk the feet, the more weight that you have coming back into the ball. Okay? So I'm just kind of chugging up and down, but I'm putting a little bit more pressure as I go down. I want to kind of comb the muscles of my back downward because they tend to get stressed forward a little bit too much. So I want to pull down the back. And it's not the end of the world if you go up and down a little bit, right? A little bit of chugging up and down. But then as I get deeper, I'm going to press down. Light and press down. And I'm only working on one side right now because I only have 1 ball back there. But if you had the 2 in the tote, you could certainly work there too. Now move the ball into a slightly lower zone. Maybe go up and down a few times. You might feel that as you stand up, as you start to go lower, that you come lower than the tip of the shoulder blade. I'm kind of coming right down to the edge of it. But getting in here, trapezius, rhomboids, those muscles that retract the shoulder blade. Great stuff in here. More force downward. Comb the back down. And this is, for most of us, it just feels heavenly. Okay. And so again, we're staying in each of these zones anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds, sometimes a minute. If you find a real tweaky spot, you just want to lean into it, take a breath. And then let's switch to the other side. So go to the other side of your spinal column. Start closer to the top. And then bend and extend the knees. Oh, get your hair out of the way. Bend and extend the knees. Need to go down a little bit more. Again, maybe I warm up by just going up and down evenly. But then the next time I go up and we go light and then push a little bit more firm and slow as the ball moves down the back. Lighter as it goes to the top. Firm and slow. Just trying to get shit back into place, you know? Firm and slow. Firm and slow. Just gonna make a t-shirt that says firm and slow and let people guess what I mean by it. So we've done the top half a little bit. Let's come lower. So just get into a lower zone. And your range as you bend and extend the knees, for most of us, it's about 4 inches. Maybe I go up and down evenly a little bit. I warm up. Da-da-da. And then slow and deep. Did I say firm and deep? Firm and slow? None of this sounds appropriate. Hair's still getting in the way. Can't take my own damn advice. It's creeping up a little bit higher. I'm just going to reposition. I want a slightly lower zone. Okay. Let's do just a couple more here. Now, if you find a technique that really seems to speak to what you're working with, I would go back there. I would stay there. I would try to stay still there. I might just try to move a nearby joint a little bit there. And I would work around some of the knots for maybe another minute or so. So these are strategies that help you find your zone. All of this is about finding your zone, what's going on in your body so that you can work with it in an empowered way. Okay, we'll do one more little thing here that we can do standing at the wall. For this one, I like the bigger ball, again, because there's clearance. I have more space. I can move easier. What we're going to try to get into is a little bit of the lats and a little bit of the serratus. So your shoulder blade pushes onto your back. See that? When I push down, because of a series of muscles on the side of your ribs called the serratus anterior. So serratus, serrated, like a little fan, hug around the rib cage. So those are really important muscles in the shoulder complex, the serratus muscles. If you're in a push-up and you push the floor away and drag the heels of your hands down a little bit, that's going to get the scapula into place. So what's important about that is to not only understand that stuff on the side of your ribs is involved, and two, that these serratus muscles share fascial connections with your obliques. So if we were going to do a bigger rollout on the floor, you could also put a soft ball or a rolled up towel under the obliques and try to lengthen and manipulate some spaciousness here too, because it's all part of the same connected system, right? So let's take a ball and place it, find the armpit, because we can all find that, and then just go out to the side of it a little bit and lean. And I have my hand on my head just because I don't want the arm to have to work. You could keep it here. If you bring it in front of you, it's a little bit harder to feel. So if you can get your arm overhead, do so. And what I want to do now is just kind of pull back a little bit. Pull back. It's almost like I'm a door on a hinge. I'm one of those like Western doors that the cowboys, and I'm just swinging on my hinge here. That's my little hinge. But I'm putting a little bit more force back. And as I come to the back, I might touch that lower edge of my shoulder blade there. Okay. A little bit, the topography changes. It feels kind of bumpy and almost serrated. Come down a little bit. You'll feel some ribs. Again, you might feel the shoulder blade. Just kind of start to figure out what you're on through feeling. Don't worry if you can't name it. Don't worry if you're not an anatomy nerd, but at least if you can figure out the zones that are cranky or the zones that are loving this, then you start to collect valuable information that'll help you come back in a more informed way. Now, every like inch or so you go lower, things start to change, right? The sensory experience is different. Come down a little bit more. This area feels expressly ribby, very ribbish, very firm, bony. You can probably start to let the hand come down if the arm is tired, because now we can access the side body with a little bit more ease. And now I'm going to start to pull a little bit more onto the back, from the ribs onto the back, as I target the lats a little bit more. It's important to remember about the big lat muscles on your back is that they also reach up and they attach to the inner arm bone there. So can't get your arms overhead. Sometimes it's triceps, sometimes the lats are involved. But I want you to see how even this stuff kind of around the ribs and the upper back, and the side waist, all of this stuff is related to the mobility of your shoulder, to the way that your shoulder moves. You could be tight all the way over here and it impacts something way up there because of the way that stuff is connected. There's a great book called Anatomy Trains by Tom Meyers, who's like a hero to most yoga teachers. I'm a little bit lower now, getting closer to the side of my waist. So Tom Meyers wrote a book called Anatomy Trains where he found pathways of fascia that are connected throughout the body so that we understand why if I'm bound up over here, maybe I feel it in the side of my neck over here. And he shows these dissection lines in the body. It's brilliant. Okay. So we've rolled almost just scrubbing side to side down the sideline of the body. As we got lower, we started to pull onto the back a little bit more. So again, pushing stuff mostly back and down. So we understand the strategy. One more thing we have to do here today is the other side. So you can drape that arm overhead, find armpit alley, go just west of armpit alley so that you're on the muscle, not in your armpit. Lean onto it like we're just going to have a casual chat here with James Dean, and start to just swing like a door on a hinge. Just swing. And I'm putting, again, just as before, a little bit more pressure as I pull towards the back. Okay? And then after like 5 to 10 of these, I'm moving down a little bit. The harder I push in, the slower I want to go. If I'm going back and forth really quick, I'm going to keep the pressure light. That is a Tom Meyers suggestion as well, right? That speed and depth are inversely proportional. You go deep, you want to go slow so the body has time to acclimate and understand that the pressure is not a threat. Feel the bumpy, sticky outy bits of my shoulder blade. Maybe I roll onto it just a little bit, that's fine, but you come back and focus on the sideline of the body. Come down a little bit lower. I had somebody ask once, are you on your side boob? Not quite when I come here, but I'm heading there. It's in that general direction. And then we come a little lower. And a little lower. And a little lower. And the lower. Big enough with the little ball, I find that it gets a little lost. I can't get in there quite as much. It's okay though. And all the way down and in, okay? So we've tried to today, what we've tried to do is open across the front of the chest, press the trapezius down the back, help the rotator cuff muscles get into position, relieve the levator scap, try to get that down, comb down the back of the body with more pressure in the downward direction, and press back into the middle. So all of this to try to organize the front more open and the back more sort of in and down. And that is just one of many sequences we could use to make the shoulders happier. It's going to make a lot of things happier, but targeting the shoulders. If you like what we did, I have a workshop series coming up this weekend. I think it's May 9th and 10th, and then 16th and 17th, Saturday and Sunday. And each day it's like 3 hours. So there'll be a little bit of lecture, a little bit of anatomy, a little bit of strategy, body knowledge. And then there will be a experience much like this that has some ball rolling, a good amount of ball rolling, and a little bit of movement strategy so that we just understand what is happening in the body. This weekend is the pathway from hands to heart. So we'll do hand stuff, shoulder stuff, rib cage stuff. And if you miss it, look for something similar on demand in the near future. My name is Alyssa Prettyman for alyssayoga.com. That is your wall-based shoulder exploration. If you have any feedback or questions, feel free to hit me up on alyssayoga.com. Just go to the contact page. That goes right to my email. Have a great day.